Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today?
Hello everyone, Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Good? So I don't know if y'all have realized it, but we had some breaking news over the last few days. Everyone has good parts and bad parts to them. Everybody has breakthrough moments and epiphanies. And I have to admit that Donald J. Trump has his moments. So with the ire and the disgust coming out of the mainstream media for Donald Trump, but Donald Trump's just well-rounded knowledge of branding, marketing, and analytics, Donald Trump has figured out a way to go beyond the mainstream media to get his message out and his propaganda. He has realized that he can go directly to the American people through social media platforms, which makes Donald Trump an entirely different animal, an entirely different president, which is something else that the mainstream media despises about him. In this case, Donald Trump used his knowledge of marketing. He used his knowledge of going through the propaganda device of the mainstream media to go directly to Twitter and also his representatives as well, and instruct a huge stimulus for the American people. Of course, Trump is backtracking on this this stimulus business because when he came out of the hospital, he instructed the Republicans to only focus on getting Amy Coney Barrett into the Supreme Court. But I think he realized how incredibly unpopular that was. So he changed his course of action. It was a smart strategy. He decided to do instead was outdo Nancy Pelosi, the HEROES Act. Of course, putting in Republican tax cuts that he loves so much, because, Trump. But he really went big. In fact, he tweeted, "Go big or go home." Well, you didn't think that Nancy Pelosi was expecting this, did you? Well, guess what happened?
As you know, there are Americans who are being evicted from their homes. They can't pay the rent. Many Americans are waiting in food lines for the first time in their lives. Can you look them in the eye, Madam Speaker, and explain why you don't want to accept the president's latest stimulus offer?
So Nancy Pelosi's caught with her pants down, right? She doesn't know what to do. She had to get a HEROES Act out. She had her donors on the phone. Don't worry, donors. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to get this passed. We're going to make sure that the airlines get more money. We're going to make sure the military-industrial complex gets more money. We're going to make sure that Raytheon, Boeing, every one of my donors gets more money. And we'll give you, American people, $1,200. We have to fit y'all in there so it looks like we're actually serving you. Ha! Well, this kind of upset the apple cart, didn't it? That's what I love about Trump. He accidentally, with his stubbornness and his bullshit, stupid ass, motherfucking dumb face, gets in their faces and upsets their fucking apple carts.
Well, because, thank you very much, Wolf, and I hope you'll ask the same question of the Republicans about why they don't really want to meet the needs of the American people. But let me say to those people, because all of my colleagues, we represent these people. I have for over 30 years represented my constituents.
You represented your constituents? What have you fucking done for your constituents? What, you made some fucking post offices for the constituents?
Somebody take this
You're unreal.
out already. Jeez.
You are a slave, a puppet to the military-industrial complex, to the airline industry, and to Wall Street and the banks. Those are your constituents. The people in San Francisco, their cost of living is high. Most of them can't even afford their rents. There is an eviction crisis as we speak. And yet, this woman gets on television to tell you she represents her constituents. How ironic, disrespectful, condescending, and idiotic that is.
I know what their needs are. I listen to them, and their needs are not addressed in the president's proposal. So when you say to me, why don't you accept theirs? Why don't they accept ours?
I love it. Nancy Pelosi, she thought she was going to a friendly conversation with Wolf Blitzer in the Clinton News Network. How'd that work out for you, Nancy? I mean, even at the point now, these politicians, these Democrat politicians are so corrupt. They're so disgustingly in it for themselves that they don't even realize how shallow and how disgusting they are. And the Clinton News Network, Wolf Blitzer himself, when the Clinton News Network tells you how much of a fucking cuck you are and how disgusting you are and how you can't even look, how are you going to look the American people in the eyes? Nancy?
Our legislation is there to do three things primarily: to honor our workers, honor our heroes, our healthcare workers, our police and fire first responders, our teachers, our transportation, sanitation, food workers, the people who make our lives work. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without them. Many of them have risked their lives so that to save lives, and now they will lose their jobs because McConnell says let the states go bankrupt.
Excuse me for
let
interrupting,
the states go bankrupt.
Madam Speaker, but they really need the money right now, and even members of your own.
I understand that,
but even members of your own caucus. Even members of your own caucus, Madam Speaker, want to accept this deal. $1.8 trillion. Congressman Ro Khanna, for example. But let me just quote Ro Khanna, a man you know well. I assume you admire him. He's a Democrat. And he just said this. He said, people in need can't wait until February. $1.8 trillion is significant and more than twice the Obama stimulus. Make a deal. Put the ball in McConnell court. So what do you say to Ro Khanna?
What I say to you is, I don't know why you're always an apologist, and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position.
Even CNN is wondering why you're so disgusting. I mean, this is where we're at now with the political parties. They are in your face disgusting. That's where we're at. So, does Nancy take kindly to this? No.
Ro Khanna, that's nice. That isn't what we're going to do, and nobody's waiting till February. I want this very much now because people need help now. But it's no use giving them a false thing just because the president wants to put a check with his name on it in the mail, that we should not be doing all we can to help people pay the rent, put food on the table, to enhance benefits, that they don't lose their jobs if they're state and local, we're talking about the consequences of a pandemic, that the symptoms of a problem that the president refuses to address.
But you know,
and that is the coronavirus.
We know
that is
we
the
know
coronavirus.
The problem out there, but there are millions of Americans who have lost their jobs. They can't pay the rent. Their kids need the food.
That's right, and that's what we're trying to get done.
$1.8 trillion, and the president just tweeted, stimulus, go big or go home. He wants even more right now, so why not work out a deal with him, and don't let the perfect, as they say here in Washington, be the enemy of the good.
Well, I will not let the wrong be the enemy of the right.
What's wrong with $1.8 trillion?
You know what? Do you have any idea what the difference is between the spending that they have in their bill and that we have in our bill? Do you realize that they have come back and said all these things for child tax credits and earned income tax credits, for helping people who have lost their jobs, are eliminated in their bill? Do you realize they pay no respect to the fact that child care is very important for people whose children cannot go to school because they're doing remote learning, and yet they minimize the need for child care, which is the threshold with which people, mothers and fathers, can go to work if they have that. Do you have any idea of how
that's precisely why, Madam
short they're concerned?
That's why it's so important right now. Yesterday I spoke to Andrew Yang, who says the same thing. It's not everything you want,
but you know
but there's a lot there.
Honest to God, you really, I can't get over it, because Andrew Yang, he's lovely. Ro Khanna, he's lovely. They are not negotiating this situation.
And of course, does she have any excuse? No. So what does she go to? Oh, I'll tell you what she goes to. First of all, she goes to, the first question is, can you look people in the eyes and tell them why they're starving? Why you didn't give the American people help? Why, in fact, you want to forego Trump's offer and dismiss it out of hand? Because people are starving. They don't have time to deal with your bullshit, Nancy. So what are you going to say? What does she say? First answer, What about the Republicans? Whataboutism. Logical fallacy, propaganda technique number 1. What about the Republicans? I hope you guys will ask the Republicans what they're doing. First thing, lie and propagandize. That's what the first thing Nancy Pelosi is. When that doesn't work, when Wolf Blitzer keeps on hitting her with the fucking truth of the fact that she's so disgusting, what does she go to next? Deflection, right? Oh my God. I had to recompose myself after she said she knows better. All you know is what your donors pay you. All you're in it is for the check. And she revealed exactly why she doesn't want to give this stimulus.
Here's what you wrote in a letter to House Democrats, Madam Speaker. And I ask these questions only, as you know, so many millions of Americans are suffering
Well, you
right
quote
now.
two people who know nothing about the agreement. There is no agreement. But what the suggestions are, as if there's some authority on the subject. Please give equal weight to to all of the chairmen on the committee who have written this bill.
But so many of your fellow Democrats in the House, they want a deal right now.
No, that isn't.
The problem solvers, they all want a deal right now.
Yeah.
And here's what they're complaining about, because you wrote a letter to House Democrats and you said this. Let me read a line from the letter you wrote. The president only wants his name on a check to go out before Election Day and for the market to go up. Is that what this is all about? Not allow the president to take credit if there's a deal that will help millions of Americans?
Because Trump's going to put his name on the check. Huh? That would make him popular with the American people. That would mean she could lose the election. That would mean she'd be out of power. And that would mean politics.
I want people to do the math. We had 3.4, which would meet the needs of the American people for a sustained period of time, so that there was some certainty in what would happen. The Republicans said no, well, so we took it down $1 trillion by cutting the time. We took it down another $200 billion. So we're now $1.200 billion down. We came down to 2.2. At the same time, since tomorrow will be 5 months since we passed the bill, at the same time, because there was no resolution, Mitch McConnell said, let's pause. The virus didn't pause, and now we're at a place where we need more money. We need more money for PPP, for our small businesses. We need more money for our airlines. We need more money for our schools. So we have absorbed nearly $500 billion more of expenses still within the 2.2.
I understand all of that, and I have only the greatest respect for you.
So do the math.
Madam Speaker, I have only the greatest respect for you.
We have come down $1.6 trillion.
$1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion is a lot of money. The American people need that money ASAP because they're suffering right now. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying...
And you don't care how it's spent.
I care, of course, how it's spent. But what I don't understand is why not talk to the president personally, call him up and say, Mr. President, let's get a deal tomorrow.
She's playing a political game with the American people. She's playing a political game with you, your lives, your families, your children. And she wants you guys to shut the fuck up. And if you don't shut the fuck up, guess what? As Andrew Yang learned,
no, we need a relief bill in the worst possible way, Wolf. I talked to a restaurant operator who operates a whole chain of restaurants, and he said that up to half of American independent restaurants will go out of business without a relief bill. And you can imagine what that's going to mean for communities around the country. 82% of Americans agree that we need a relief bill, and the only thing that's keeping us from passing it is politics. Right now, Nancy Pelosi has maximal leverage, where President Trump's last offer of $1.8 trillion was so high that Senate Republicans didn't like it. It's a good deal. Nancy needs to say yes, she has won. Just take this deal so we can get some relief out to Americans before the holidays. If we don't get this done now, who knows when a relief bill will pass.
You're a fucking sexist. Yes, so we go from whataboutism to deflection to fear-mongering to smearing. She called Rokana nice, lovely. He's not in charge of these. They're not in charge of these negotiations. No, they're not. Because if they were, we would have a stimulus already. But we have a soulless, empty husk of a human being who lives in a mansion-filled area, a gated community in San Francisco. You think she talks to her constituents? You know who Nancy Pelosi's constituents are? They're the fucking people who live right by Nancy Pelosi. Okay? Oh, hey, how's your mansion? Good, how's your mansion? I'm good, I'm eating ice cream. These people are sick. They need help.
Institutionally suggested in terms of what the cost would be to do it and to do it that way. And about, we talk about child care, yes. We talk about safety in the workplace. Safety in the workplace. That's a very important issue, especially in the time of the pandemic. So what I say to those people is, we're going to get a deal. And when we do, it will be retroactive. It will be.
The president is now putting some pressure on his fellow Republicans in the Senate. He just tweeted this: Republicans should be strongly focused on completing a wonderful stimulus package for the American people. Have you spoken with the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, other House Democratic leaders about getting this done?
I've been speaking to members of Congress, and many of them are frustrated by the lack of progress. You had the Problem Solvers Caucus propose a compromise bill. A lot of them know that this is a good deal and want Nancy to say yes. That's what I'm hearing from members of Congress who are in their districts, in many cases seeing the pain and suffering up close.
Let me say this. The president has sent Mr. Mnuchin to negotiate. That's what we've done with other presidents. This isn't unusual.
The food bank lines are stretching on for miles and hours in places that before did not see that kind of need and desperation. I hear from people every single day about the fact that they can't make rent or pay for groceries, or they don't know where they're going to be able to get the money to put gas in their car. And we can prevent this. We have a deal that's on the table right now from President Trump, $1.8 trillion that would extend federal unemployment weekly benefits of $400 a week for Americans who are struggling right now, $1,200 in cash directly to households, $300 billion plus to state and local governments. This is a great deal. Nancy Pelosi has won. All she has to do now is take the win for the American people.
Not only is Nancy Pelosi so entitled that she refuses to even call the president of the United States of America, but she also is dripping with such condescension and such hatred for anyone who holds her feet to the fire and holds her accountable for her actions, that she will literally demean and condescend to a journalist, even though CNN is not a journalist. They are literally puppets for the establishment. Even the establishment is wondering why Nancy is so corrupt.
As we
know them. We represent them.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, as they say
here in Washington. It is nowhere near perfect.
Madam Speaker.
Always the case, but we're not even close to the good.
All right, let's see what happens, because every day is critically, critically important.
Nancy, what's up with you? Even the establishment is wondering why Nancy Pelosi is so corrupt. Think about that. This is a crazy time. Wow. So, I mean, I don't know what to say anymore. These people, not only are they corrupt beyond all imagination, not only do they use identity politics as a weapon against the people that are actually oppressed, but what makes me the most sad is that the reaction from the American people. You guys are still going to vote for this, aren't you? Wow. Wow. So it just makes me so sad. What would it take for you to act like our founding fathers and finally give a shit and stand up for yourselves?
It's not about me. It's about millions of Americans who can't put food on the table, who can't pay the rent,
and
who are
we
having
represent
trouble,
them. And
who
we
are
represent
trouble
them.
getting
And
by
we represent
these
them.
long food
And we
lines that we're
represent
seeing.
them.
I know
We
you
know
are.
them.
You guys wonder why half the country doesn't vote? You guys wonder why a fourth of the country's on drugs? You wonder why stress levels are at the highest and suicides are on the rise? It's because of Nancy fucking Pelosi and people like her. So, just so y'all know. Who's enabling this? Is it you? I wouldn't. Just saying. But that's where we're at, like I keep saying. So, to continue the story, Nancy Pelosi flat out says why she won't support this stimulus. Why she won't even look into it. Why she won't even call the president up and ask to make a deal. Because she's already had her HEROES Act. I've already made the HEROES Act. I've already named it. I've already told my donors I was going to pass it. And what are my donors going to do if I don't? What are her donors going to do if she doesn't? That's the question, right? You know? Maybe she'll be out of power. Maybe she'll get primaried. Maybe they'll get someone that looks exactly like her and primary her ass. Just like she would do to AOC. Do you know why AOC is a puppet now? Because Nancy and AOC sat down in a salon, got some highlights. She's like, hey girl, you're in the Senate now? Let me tell you something. I'm the Speaker of the House. I have an awesome power. The Speaker of the House brings legislation to the House floor. She brings any agenda, and she can stop any agenda that the Senate wants to enact. It goes from the House to the Senate, back to the House, to the Senate, and then goes to the president, okay? So it goes through 2 circles, okay? She brings the legislation to the floor. Then the House votes on it, passes it, sends it to the Senate. Y'all get this? She decides what the agenda is. Guess why the Green New Deal didn't pass? Did she bring to the floor the Green New Deal? No. And she told that to AOC. I won't bring your fucking progressive legislation. I will not bring progressive legislation to the House floor. Guess what I'm going to do? If you so much as even try to be a progressive in this House of Representatives, I'm going to primary your ass. I'm going to get someone who looks exactly like you, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Maybe she'll be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's going to look just like you. She's going to have your personality, but she's going to be paid by Raytheon, Boeing, and the military-industrial complex. And we're going to funnel $50 billion into ads on TV. And we're going to brainwash the American people into thinking you're some kind of nutcase, just like we did with Trump. So don't cross me, AOC. Get some highlights and chill. And guess what AOC did? She chilled. That's what they do. And that's Nancy Pelosi's specialty, is scaring progressives into being corporate puppets. So she doesn't like Yang, and she doesn't like Kana, because I guess that didn't work out. And so then she called them sexist. She got her daughter. I mean, this is what I'm talking about with the wealthy, guys. This is my problem. The wealthy, they might have worked somewhat hard to get that money. Guess what their kids do? They don't work hard at all. They get trust funds, they get lazy, entitled, and then they become horrible people. Horrible people. Disgusting people. Okay? Christine Pelosi is one of those people. She's a horrible person. She uses sexism as a weapon. That's a horrible person, right? Just like using race as a weapon, using someone's identity as a weapon is being a horrible person by definition. You're not oppressed, Christine. You live in San Francisco in a mansion, and just like Chelsea Clinton isn't oppressed, okay? In fact, Chelsea Clinton had a doctor's office in her apartment for Hillary, because just in case a concussion happened. So these people pretend to be oppressed. They don't even know what the fuck oppression is, and they use it as a weapon against people who are actually trying to make change. So she tweeted out that Andrew Yang was sexist because she didn't call Nancy, Madam Speaker. What do I have to say about that? You're bullshit.
Who is this? Well, now, let me see, my dear. It certainly isn't a heart. Do you suppose it's a club?
Why, it's a little girl.
Yes, and I was hoping...
Look up, speak nicely, and don't twiddle your fingers. Turn out your toes. Curtsy. Open your mouth a little wider. And always say, yes, your majesty.
Yes, your majesty.
Who gives a shit? This is the United States of America. Yes, your majesty. We do not call anyone king. We do not call anyone but by their names because we are a free people. So you, Christine, can go eat your ice cream and fuck off. This is America, bitch. I'm not taking this shit. And I've had it with these fucking left-wingers. Nah, they're not left-wing. They're corporatist, puppet, entitled brats. and they should be scoffed, mocked, and destroyed, crushed underfoot. Enabled? Voted for? Crushed! I say crushed. I say crushed. Tommy Nation Politics.